It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No. We're gonna watch and listen.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Grizzly on the hunt from coast to coast and around the world. Welcome back once again this evening, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody out there in La La Land? We have a special guest. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm known as the Psychic Sleuth. My name's Rochelle.
Yes.
I'm a psychic medium.
I heard all about you. I mean, you are famous.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. I mean, you have, you're very well known out there. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about your history and stuff. I got to know about this. This is interesting.
Okay, well, it's not much of a history, honestly. I always was kind of intuitive growing up. I had my different experiences. I didn't really come into my gifts until I met and lost my twin flame. And so after he passed away, I had a mediumship reading, and I was just like, you know what? I want to do what she does. I kind of asked for my gifts. I started, and then it was weird. It was like after I asked for my gifts, the universe started gifting me with mentors. So I had a couple mentors cross my path. One, she passed a few years ago. We did a couple of sessions, and she was like, you know what? You need to be doing readings. I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, you need to be doing readings. So I started auto writing. I started using cards. I started meditating a lot. And I opened a grief group. I had this urge to open this grief group in October of, I think it was 2012. And that was going really well. And I was channeling for people, not realizing I was channeling on how to deal with their grief and whatnot, because I had been there. But it was like, where is this coming from? And then one day I had this message for someone. I said, you know what, do you mind if I tell you what I'm getting? And she said, no, go ahead. It was about her son. And I said, it was so random too. I was like, do you know why I'm getting mashed potatoes? Like, it was something off the wall that I would have never even thought, but this is just a test in trusting spirit, So
Right.
I said, well, why am I getting mashed potatoes? And she's like, well, I'm standing at the stove cooking them right now. So it was her way, it was spirit's way of letting her know, her son knew that, letting her know that he was there with her. So that was I think the turning moment for me. From there, it went to I was on a podcast with a private investigator. We started getting big, and then I don't know, he did his own thing and kind of ran out of time. And so I just continued with YouTube and whatnot, and I've been here ever since. So I did have another YouTube. It got hacked. I had to start all over. But so that's where we are now.
Wow. So you have an incredible journey. So
yeah.
You are basically been mentored. So that is very interesting. So
in the beginning, yeah. And then I kind of just mentored myself, but I still had a mentor for a couple years until she passed away. And she became a really good friend. She was actually used to live in Arizona, but one day she was like, do I have cancer? And I knew she did, but I couldn't tell her because there's some things that just aren't ethical, because I'm like, if I tell her this and I'm wrong or I'm understanding wrong, she's going to be stressing out, if she has cancer.
Right.
So you have to be careful with what you say. She ended up having throat cancer and passing away within a month. It was really, really fast.
Wow.
So, I mean, she found out after I would have said anything anyways, but yeah, I have to say that she was, one of the main reasons why I got into this, because she told me that I needed to do that. She said, you need to be giving readings. So it was the first I knew that, so she put me on this path.
Wow, that's incredible. So with your journey now, how does this work? So now I have been interviewing psychics, medium, clairvoyants for some time, and actually I'm in the process of writing a book about you all, because it's very interesting, because everybody has their own story.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their own way of how they got their abilities. Some of it's passed on from generations. Some of it's from near death experiences. Some of it, look at you. I mean, how
Yeah.
you got it, right? So, I mean, can you sit there and just get information from people? I mean, how does that work?
Like, and it's weird, like whenever I do interviews like this, I can feel spirit because I'll get chills and stuff. And I notice that's even sometimes like when I'm talking or I mention things, like I'm actually channeling, but so it's kind of comes naturally. I always tell people, well, if I say things, I'm saying it for a reason. But you know, I have control over it. Like the way that I work is maybe not the way that Matt Fraser works, or the way that other ones, you know, may work. Like I can't look at someone and be like, okay, this spirit's here, this spirit's here. Like it doesn't really work like that for me. I don't see them in that way. I see them in my mind's eye, and I can do that. But once I open up, once I open up, like, hey, whoever wants to talk can talk. It's hard to differentiate who's who. I had somebody do that yesterday. They wanted to do that. Their grandma and their husband's brother stepped in, but she didn't even recognize it was the husband's brother until today. So then she gets back to me. She's like, okay, all this stuff makes sense now. But at the time she didn't. And names are really hard to get. It's not like that's something that sometimes they come to me. Like there's certain times I'll get names and I'll be like, okay, that's a
Right.
grandma. But it's not all the time. And sometimes it's me, and sometimes it's just like they don't know how to tell me, and maybe I'm not picking it up. Like we're just humans connecting to another vibration. It's not like we know everything like people think we do. So you know, I tend to like to bring the spirit to me and work off of a picture. That's how I tend to like to work. That way I know it's direct and who I'm speaking to, and get the validation that way. And then when I do when I do psychic stuff, like I don't like to just tell everybody about their lives, because it doesn't really work like that for me. I call it guidance from your guides. So I like to work off questions and kind of go down that path. And then anything extra that comes in, of course, I'll tell you, but I like to kind of go off the questions that people want answered so that they get what they want out of their reading. That's just the way that I work. It's more of a focused thing. But there have been moments where like I've gotten things for people and I've told them. But it's
Right.
like I don't
Right.
get bugged by spirit, and I think there's a boundary line where you don't want to just go up to someone and like tell them all this stuff, like because they might not be open to it. I've always been taught that that's just something you don't do. And I actually feel like a normal person. I don't feel like a medium. I always say that. I'm like, am I actually a medium? Because I don't feel like it. Because I don't get bothered. It's not like I go down my hallway and I see somebody standing there. Like it doesn't work like
Yeah.
that for
Hey,
me.
come here now. I got a message for you to give
My
to my loved
animals,
one in the other room, right?
yeah, my
Yeah.
animals, I think, kind of see more spirit than I do, or sense more spirit than I do. Like it just doesn't work like that. Like I have to
Right.
sit down and tap in. That's just how I work.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, it really is. And I mean, a lot of people say it's a blessing. Some people say it's a curse. At least you have a lot of control over it, because, you
Yeah.
know, the last person I just got on interviewing, and he was like, you have a doll above you and dolls. And I'm like, and, you know, and now you got an attachment and it's a female that owned the dolls. I mean, he named everything to the T. He was like, how long have you had it? Told me what I need to do. And I'm like, oh, great, you know. And I already knew that I had some issues with them. But, you know, these things, people with abilities are real. And I have, ladies and gentlemen, I have my own board of psychics that I have put together, that I go to work on other cases, missing person cases, murder cases, code cases, projects. I have people that work for the FBI, the DIA, the Department of Intelligence Agency, the people that work for the United States government that used to spy on the Soviet Union back in the Cold War with remote viewing. So this stuff is real. Do we have the fake ones out there? Absolutely. But you can tell the difference between a real and a fake one. It is not hard. And I'll let her explain how you can tell the difference.
I'll try to tell different. Sorry, my dog just went nuts over the UPS man.
No, that's all right. Yeah, not a
That's the
problem.
thing about earlier. So I mean, I always say validation, like the proof is in the pudding. That's that's the way that I feel like I can tell, and they always will put off that energy. Like there's some people or some psychics out there, like I literally cannot watch because of the energy of them, or I just don't have a good feeling about them. So I always say trust your gut, trust your intuition on what you're feeling towards someone. I always have people, they come to me like, I feel so connected to you, like I don't know why I'm drawn to you. Like that's how you should feel about someone in this work, is they should put off that type of energy where you feel comfortable talking to them, you feel comfortable coming to them. Like they should have that kind of energy about them. Like animals love me, you know, somebody that does this kind of work and is so connected with spirit should have that kind of energy. And then when, you know, the proof is in the pudding, like they have to have validation in a reading. Like the reason why I like to focus on someone and bring them in is because I like to give validation that I'm getting. So I'm not just going to tell you, hey, this person says I love you and blah, 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 because there's no validation in that. I could be talking to anybody and I could tell you anything. But if I'm telling you stuff that there's no way I can know, and no way I can, like, because I don't Google, I don't like to know anything about anybody. Even the cases, I like to go in blind because it can really screw everything up, because sometimes
That
you
is
can't
correct.
tell the difference between your mind and spirit, because mind comes in the form of thoughts. And so if I already know stuff, they might mention stuff that I read, and it's so hard to tell like the difference sometimes. So that's why I try to stay away from cases or anything that I'm really going to work. And it's the same thing with people. Like if they're coming to me, like unless I tell you something or I'm saying, yes, please validate this, don't just give me a bunch of extra information, because I don't know if that's going to come through, you know.
Right.
So that's how you can tell the difference. If somebody, like, yes, of course we're not going to know everything. Like I finally, after 10 years, did a reading with someone. She's like, you're psychic, you should know this. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like unless spirit gives me that information, I'm not going to know what you do for work or what you do every day. Like it doesn't work like that just because you're psychic. I can't go give you the lottery numbers. Like it depends on what spirit gives you, and sometimes they don't want to tell me things. So, you know, and if that's what people, I think, need to understand, is that like we don't know everything. You know, I think it's expected of us, but we don't. Like we're going to know what spirit gives us. And sometimes they do speak in riddles. Sometimes they do. Sometimes people's guides are very, like, the way that they talk. I'll notice the difference between how I talk and how they talk, you know, because sometimes they're a little more poetic in the way that they speak. I've had that happen a few times recently. But yeah, so I mean, I just think that people think that we should be specific all the time. And yes, there are times where we're supposed to be specific, but it's not going to happen all the time. We get what we're supposed to get, and that's it. So that, I think that's really how you tell the difference, is if they've got validation of your loved one that there's no way they could know. That's a big thing. Same thing with cases. I always like to put the validation out, because there are so many out there. Yes, there's real, but yes, there is also not real. Or yes, there is accurate, and yes, there is not accurate. Like anything, right? You know, that's just the way it is in any profession. You have good doctors, you have bad doctors. You know, it's
I
kind
know.
of the same
I
thing.
mean, ladies and gentlemen, she's absolutely right. So, I mean, I give her credit for that. I mean, she's telling the truth. I
Yeah.
mean, anytime you go to psychic, you're not going to sit there and go, okay, so I'm here to talk to my grandmother. She died 3 years ago, right? Here's what she looks like, and here's her favorite perfume. I mean, you're going to sit there in front of them. You're not going to tell them pretty much anything. You know, they're going to ask you questions, and whatever comes to them is going to come to them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I always say, when they tell you something, it may not register with you or resonate with you
Yeah.
right there at that moment. So take
That's what happened
that
last
and make
night.
notes. Yeah,
Yeah.
take notes of it.
That's what happened last night. I'm like, there's this younger male that's standing with your grandma, and I started telling her all this stuff, and she's like, I don't know. I don't know anybody. And I was like, he comes off as a brother to someone. And so this morning she messaged me. She's like, oh, that's my husband's brother. He was 23, you know, and then all this stuff registered. But at the time, it didn't register with her.
Right.
And it
Right.
happens sometimes. And
So
I always tell people too, like, even if I'm focused on like one person, I'm trying to bring that one person through. There's been times where I've gotten another person, like another spirit, come in, and they will say stuff, and the person will be like, no, that doesn't make sense to who you're trying to connect to. And I'm like, well, does it make sense to anybody else? Because sometimes that person will want you to validate them before they let the other energy through. So that does happen a couple times, and we'll have to figure out who it is. And then once it's validated, they step back. So I have had that happen a couple times. So I always tell people, make sure that, it's not fitting anybody else on the other side that you have, or even anybody here.
Now, have you ever had this happen? So, would you tell my buddy, hey, did you tell me? I want to go first. Don't you step out of the way. No, hey, listen to me. Can you hear me? Have you ever had that happen before, where they bump each other out of line or anything like that?
Well, that's what I mean is, like, sometimes I'll be trying to connect to one person, but this other energy will step in, and I'll get information on them, and they'll be like, well, that's not hitting. And I'm like, well, is it anybody else? And then they're like, oh yeah, it's this person. And once they validate that person's presence, then that person will step back and allow the other one to come in. So sometimes they do that. Yeah. And they'll be allowed to do that. The person that I'm trying to connect to will allow it, because they know that they're going to get their time anyway, so they'll allow it. If you're getting a message, you're supposed to be getting a message. So that's the way I look at it.
Right. Now, do you see that happening, or do you just hear that happening?
Sometimes, so the way that I see is I see everything in my head. Like, I really wish I saw outside of my head, but I just don't. My mom does, but I don't. But I see them, like, it's not like clear like I'm looking at you right now. It's more of like a fuzzy, but I can kind of make out. And sometimes they'll show me like sometimes they'll show me specific things about them that maybe you might recognize, but usually they come in kind of fuzzy. Like yesterday I was trying to explain the lady's grandma. It was like she's wearing like a flower dress, and she has like curly gray hair. And so she was like, okay, she always wore flower dresses. So that was a way that she kind of told her that she was there. And so sometimes I'll see it, like, but really it's like more like I'm getting this information on this person, but it's not fitting who you want to connect to. So then it's another person, you know what I mean? So then they have to see who it fits, because they're not going to come up like, hey, I'm Tom, and this like, it doesn't work like that. I wish it did. It would make my life so much easier if they just announce themselves like that. It doesn't work like that for me. Sometimes I do get names and it does fit family members or whatever, but sometimes I don't. I just get more of a description. So,
I mean, that
so they have
makes a
to
lot
figure
of
out who
sense.
it fits. Yeah. Like yesterday, I mean, it was like a younger brother. And so it was obvious it was her husband's younger brother. He's 23. So when she thought about it, she understood it, but at the time it wasn't registering. But I was like, it definitely felt like a brother, because sometimes I feel the connections that they have. Sometimes it's the connections with you, and sometimes it's just like, oh, I'm a brother, and that's an important connection to me. So if I say brother, it doesn't necessarily mean your brother, but it means that he has a brother, and there's a important connection there.
Yeah, I mean, that makes actually sense. And I always tell people, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to somebody that has these special abilities, never get your hope up. Do not. And don't expect to get what you want. I mean, you may go there and not get anything, or you may get something that does not make sense, and maybe for your aunt or your mom or whoever else that you may have to pass on. Is that correct?
Well, you always get what you need, is what I tell people. Like, they might be wanting to hear one thing, but spirit will always tell them what they feel is most important. Like, they know what's in your heart and mind. They know what you can handle. So they're always going to give you the message that they feel that you need to hear. And a lot of times I will get that, that sort of message. But since I work off of pictures, knock on wood, there's only one time in 11, well, almost 11 years where I pulled the person forward, but they really didn't have much to say. It was almost like there was a wall. Like, I still got validations, but it was nothing like all the other readings that I ever had. I mean, she still got some validations, but it was nothing like I usually do. So luckily they've always come when I've called them. Thank God. Some stronger than others. So that's the other thing too, is it depends on their energy. If they've been gone a really long time, they're not going to come through as strong as someone that's just like literally, just passed a few years ago or whatever. Their energy is not going to be as strong, but I can still get stuff from them, because I think the farthest I've done was like 60 years ago, and that was not was not easy, because I have people come to me with like people from their like they're doing their family tree and they want to know things. So I actually have there's a reading on my YouTube that I did. It was really interesting. She wanted to do like a genetic reading, and I never did one like that before. And it was like a Native American guy, and we got all this information that matched her like genealogy stuff. It was pretty cool. But it's hard if like you can't validate anything. Like if you're wanting me to connect to someone, but they're telling me stuff, but you can't validate because you didn't know them. Like that's what's hard. That's what's hard because the more you're
Wow.
able to validate, it seems like the easier like the information will flow if you can validate it. Because then I know I'm with the right energy and I continue with that energy. That's the way I work it anyway. I always tell people like we don't all work the same. Like, Matt Frazier, I don't work like how Matt Frazier does. Yes, I can tell you, things, people that are around you, like I can give you messages like that, but I just sometimes don't know who it is. You kind of have to figure that out by the validations I'm giving you if I do it that way. And like sometimes when I open the floodgates, we'll get a bunch of different energies. Because I had my friend that was in the military, his readings on my YouTube too, but he was like, "Oh, just tell me whoever you want to hear from, or whoever steps forward." And we had like 5 people come in, and they were all taking turns, and it was getting a little confusing because there was a bunch of military guys that were coming in. So they
Oh,
all kind of had
wow.
similar stuff to said. So yeah, I got a little confusion. So I don't really like to do readings that way. It doesn't mean I can't. I just like to keep it more focused on one person, and people get to hear who they want to hear from. Because a lot of people don't bring in whoever they want, but for some reason I can do that, and they come.
Well, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, see,
And
I'm trying to explain that to people, and the people are like, "Yeah, right." But let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, she is absolutely true. And this is Grizzly Approved, or she would not be on my show, ladies and gentlemen. That is true. So, talk about some of your cases. I want to know about that 60-year-old case. That's pretty far back.
well, it wasn't a case. It was just somebody's loved one from like 60 years
Right.
ago. And it's funny because I'm watching the comments, and Vanished and Forgotten is saying she can't hide anything from me. She literally can't. And I think it's just her though. Like I don't really do that with anybody else, but I feel sorry for her being my friend. Being my friend. But it comes in handy when she wants me to find stuff. She's like, I lost this. Can you tell me where it is? And I'll tell her where it is. But her dad tells on her when she's smoking, or like they were out looking for someone for me one time, and I was like, I'm hearing Hickory, and they're like, we're right by Hickory Street. So her husband was like, dude, she's stalking us. But like I can only do it
Wow.
with her. And I think that comes with the connection. When someone's
Yes.
open and you have a connection to someone, then I think that it makes a difference in how you connect to them. Like I can literally tell her way too much of what she's doing. She doesn't like it.
Yes, yeah. So I can actually relate to that, and here's why. And I'll do a quick rundown. On my panel, I was told when I was going to move, how I was going to move, where I was going to move to, what was going to happen when I moved, when I was going to go to the dentist, and which I didn't believe in. I was going to meet this woman when I moved and settled him at the new studio. A woman got a hold of me, and we talked, and being Grizzly, took the picture of this woman and presented it in front of the board of my psychics and asked, is this the woman that I'm supposed to meet? Because it fit the description of what I was told. Well, lo and behold, it was not, but they let me down very easily. And make a long story short, the woman they described was actually on my panel, and she knew it the whole time, and she read herself. And my girl that I'm talking to is a psychic, so I cannot keep anything from her as well. So, yes, she's probably watching right now. So, yeah, Sonia, I did call this out once again. But no, it's very interesting because, in the beginning when I went on this mission, I've learned a lot. I learned how everybody grew up and had difficulties with life, because a lot of people were telling Grizzly, I didn't understand why they were not like me. I thought this was normal. And all throughout life, how could you be with somebody or have friendships and you're sitting there, you're like, nope, you're not even close telling me what you're telling me is right. I know from exactly you're wrong, and you're so full of BS. And, and it hurts. It really does. And now, I tell Sonia, I don't have nothing to hide. I'm an open book. You got a question, turn the page. You can read it. I don't have to answer it anymore. So it is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, how do you feel about your abilities?
I love them. I mean, the only downfall is sometimes it can be a little draining. I don't think people understand like how draining they can be, because we have to raise our vibration and they're using our energy to connect. So sometimes when you're doing that a lot, you get you get really drained, and cases specifically can get really draining. So sometimes I need a break. Sometimes I don't post a lot of cases and stuff because I'm doing a lot of private readings or whatever. Like I told you, like I just didn't have time to do that case because I had my son coming. I had cases. I was extremely
Right,
exhausted,
right.
and also I think the planetary stuff tends to affect me more than it does other people. So there's times where I'm just literally drained. But other than that, like I've helped hundreds of people, and I can say that this is my passion. Sorry, my cat.
Oh, that's
This
all
is
right.
my
No.
passion. This is my passion, and I'm following my passion, and like crime, especially like missing persons and cases and things like that. Like that's a true passion of mine. And I always say follow your passion, because if you follow your passion, you're on your soul path. And I don't think there's anything else that I see myself I could do. That's a big part of your passion too. Like I don't see myself doing anything else. Um, as far as my abilities, I get frustrated sometimes, and the girls will tell you, like, I get frustrated because I don't, especially when it comes to areas. It's not like they're telling me, "Oh, all right, you're right in this specific area. That's where this person is." It doesn't work like that. It's like I get puzzle pieces and I can see like I'm there. So I get a little frustrated because sometimes I fill out a map, sometimes I don't. And even when I get on a map, I get extremely drained, and I think it has to do with just feeling the energies of everything in that area. Um, but yeah, I love my abilities. I love helping people. I have a big heart to help people, and I never say no. I never say no.
Right, right.
I have people even now, like I'm booked out pretty far, and they're like, "Hey, can you squeeze me in?" And I end up squeezing them in, and I don't have any days off. So as far as I like making a change in the world, and I like making a change in people's lives. I like when they come back to me and they're like, "You know what? The advice from spirit really changed my life. It really put me on a path. It made me love myself." Like that's how I feel like I'm making a difference, because people get really stuck in life, and I think that spirit's advice can really help them with that. So I love my abilities. I get a little frustrated with them, and sometimes I wish they were stronger, but I'm thankful with what I got. So, and
Right,
that's only
right.
stronger for like the cases and stuff. Like I have to keep telling myself there's a timing to everything. There's a timing to everything. If they're meant to be found, they'll be found. When and if they're meant to be found, by who they're meant to be like I have to continue to tell myself that, because I get extremely frustrated. Because everybody expects you to be just like, okay, they're right here. That's where they're at. It,
Right,
does, it doesn't
right,
work.
right.
It
You're right.
doesn't
Yeah,
work
isn't
like
that
that.
the
Not for me,
truth?
anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Now, are you on my board of panel, or did you not get on there?
I didn't get to do this last case because my
But
son
no,
came.
but are you on the group still, or did you
Yeah, I'm
not?
on the group. Yep.
So, do
Mhm.
you remember that picture I put out there and tested everybody about that girl? Remember that? And asked, "Is this the woman?"
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, you're probably too busy. Denise wants to know: do you need to drink a lot of water when you do readings?
I probably should.
I probably should.
I probably should. I'm over here more drinking caffeine. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds like me. Carrie, I love how many YouTube videos are interrupted by cats. What is it with psychics, mediums, clairvoyance with cats? What is
Well,
the
I
story
love this
behind this?
subject. I love this subject because cats protect on the astral plane. And where do psychic mediums work? They work on the astral plane.
Aha.
So and I'm getting chills with that, and it's like 80 degrees here. So they feel the energy. Um, so I do have certain cats that come around when there's certain energies around me. Um, I have a cat that when I was working the Quentin case, because sometimes I talk myself out of an area because I have that logical mind, right? And the
Right.
spirit's literally saying, "Okay, he's in the landfill," and I'm like looking around, like, but but wait, that's too obvious. Like that's my logical mind, you know? So my cat Ezekiel, he's a white cat. I call him my angel cat. He comes over here and he is pawing me like crazy as I'm looking at the landfill. So he was trying to tell me, and once I kind of like got it, he like left. But there's certain cats that come around at certain times. I notice Neo, he comes around a lot when I'm just talking. But yeah, so they work on the astral plane. So literally, like, especially if you're a psychic medium and you're working with a lot of spirits, they will protect your space and your energy. So, and your house. So they will literally follow around a negative spirit and make sure that it's not doing anything, or any spirit for that matter, and make sure it's not doing anything. Dogs work on the physical plane. So my dog sometimes will react. Like, I have a deaf dog. I swear he just feels the energy, because sometimes he'll bark out of nowhere, like down the hallway. I know he didn't hear anything, so it's something else. Speaking of, um, he's like, that's me. And so I have more dogs that are more sensitive to spirit that I notice more than others. But yeah, cats, they work on the astral plane, so that's why. And they also can heal your energy and your vibration just by sitting on your heart or your heart chakra. They're purring. It's like at a certain hertz, and it will actually cleanse that heart chakra and that space. So they can actually cleanse your energy as well as the energy around you, and they feel the spirit. They just want to kind of make sure you're doing okay as you're doing readings or whatever you're doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, Vanish says, I searched for an hour last night for a sucky cup. Couldn't find it. So I messaged her for help, and she found it one in 5 minutes.
I do that with her all
LOL.
the time.
Yeah,
the time.
Denise, Diane, love it, love it. Denise, I connect with my dogs. My sister's dogs kept putting the head on my chest. A few months later, found out I had cancer. I truly believe she sensed it. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? I do believe in that. I do. I think animals are very sensitive. I think that when they look in corners, they do see things. I do not discount that. Lisa, I finally caught a live. I'm so happy to see that. Well, welcome aboard, Lisa, the Grizzly on the Hunt, with our special guest here. I'm so finally glad I got to have her on the show. Yes. So, I always wanted to ask that question because everybody I always interviewed always had cats, like everywhere cats. And when I was on the police department, I always went to people's homes and they always had lots of cats. And I never did ask why they had a lot of cats. Now I know why. When I went to their house, they knew exactly why I was there before I even asked a question. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they knew the answer before I would ask. So, yeah. So now it makes sense.
We can get in your mind sometimes. I do that with the girls all the time, but I feel like I have to be kind of connected to someone to do that, but I do that sometimes.
Yeah,
A
like
little bit of a mind
Sonia.
reader. Well, I actually do it. I can't do live readings anymore because we did that during Idaho 4. I was like a new thing. I was like, I'm gonna do live readings, and I was picking up the chat without looking at it. I was saying stuff, and then they said it in the chat 2 seconds later. So we decided, no, can't do it, because also the thoughts and everybody putting away who they thought was doing it was overtaking spirit. People don't understand how strong people's minds and energy can be, and when you're putting all your thoughts, like, say they all thought it was just one person and they're putting that towards me, I'll see it, and it's hard to tell the difference, right? Because you don't know where it's coming from. So I had to decide I couldn't do live readings anymore.
Right. Well, Carrie wants to know, do you ever read people's mind by accident? And are they surprised at the info? LOL.
I mean, we just talked about that. That's so funny.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, I do it to the girls all the time. And like I said, I was reading the chat without reading the chat. So
right. And I know Sonia reads mine. So I'm very, pure. But I know her talent and I know your talent, because that's why I reached out to you a while back ago, because you all are special. And people like you all are the real deal. Just Down says that's cool. Gemini, love Rachel, Mrs. Person cases when they're validated as well. It's mind blowing, absolutely. Carrie is down here laughing, saying sorry with a happy face, and it's crying. So that must be somebody Carrie. Vanish, yeah, mine and Carrie all the time. Yes,
The
it's
mind.
very special.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I could not imagine just be sitting there talking to somebody and be like, "You just thought that, really?" I mean, I just couldn't do it. I mean, I would bust out laughing, be sitting at a dinner table and be eating something and just look at somebody and be like, "You really just thought that? You
Hmm.
really just put that in your dang on mind and that just came across your brain?" I mean, how do you deal with that?
I think it's funny.
I mean,
unless
do
unless
you
I'm
just
trying to
bust out
do
laughing or
yeah,
you just
I mean, unless I'm trying to do like I said, like a live reading, that is not so well. But and we didn't even know at the time when I was doing that that's what I was doing. I was like, because I get something, I was like, that doesn't make sense, or I know it's not these people, but then we realized they were talking about the same stuff in chat.
oh,
So when it comes to that, it's kind of annoying. But when it comes to like my friends and stuff, like if I just kind of I'll like say stuff and then they'll be like, I was just gonna mention that or something like that, like then it's funny. We all laugh about it. And Lizzie will be just like, "Ah, not again." You did it again.
poor Lizzie, I tell you. And she just says, reads mine also. So, Lizzie, you must be like me. You must be pure at all times and remain calm, right?
Yeah.
So, no, Nay King Kim says, is this still a relationship between you and your mom? Does your mom have
She
abilities
does.
as well?
Yeah. She does. I think it runs along my female line. Um from stories that I've heard, like I think it was my great grandma or one of my grandmas like was born with a veil over their face, which is supposedly symbolic or whatever that you
Right.
have gifts. So it's kind of seems like it runs down the female line. My son is a really gifted healer, but he blocks it. He was really, really good at it when he was younger, but he's just like, he doesn't want to deal with it anymore. But my mom can see spirit. I actually lost her in Tombstone. We think she might have followed a ghost, not me. But
Wow.
she doesn't like to really tap into it. But lately she's been saying, "Hey, I wonder if I should open my third eye." I'm like, "Mom, your third eye's mostly open because she sees my dog all the time. I don't see him, but she does." Um, she's pretty empathic and like I can't really get away with anything. She knows if I she knows before I tell her. Um, so yeah, it runs down that line. Like she knows like she was seeing spirit because we're pretty in like a pretty haunted area. She sees a lot of Native Americans and stuff. My grandma, she was all into it, but she was really like religious, but at the same time she had like they were doing tarot cards and she was talking to clairvoyance. So she was, I don't know if she was gifted or she was just really into it. It was one of those things back then you didn't talk about that then it wasn't really, taken
No.
very well.
No.
Now thank God the world is opening up and
Yes, that is
thank
true.
God. 'Cause I wouldn't like to
No.
be in that era with these gifts, it'd be really
No,
hard to
no, no. Now, Gemini, law enforcement, FBI, CIA, DIA, they actually do use
they do.
psychics.
Mhm.
They do not announce it. They usually call them guests. They call them advisors. Being retired in law enforcement, I cannot go in front of a judge with a warrant and say, I had a psychic tell me to go down to the creek, go over here to find this weapon, okay, that was used in the murder case. So, or to find a body or whatnot, I can use the clues and use cadaver dogs or whatever to find traces of evidence, forensic evidence, and so forth. But yes, they do use them, absolutely. Families actually hire psychics to recover unfortunately, bodies of missing persons, family members, to bring them home that's been missing for years. So, yes, they do use them. I just want to throw that out there. Lizzie, Denise, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. Yeah, man, like she is like everywhere. I thought I was everywhere, man. Yeah, I'm like, this is like a well known name. Why do you think she's on my panel, ladies and gentlemen?
I don't know
Uh,
about well known, you keep saying that.
Lizzy, she has a Facebook, YouTube, the Psychic Sleuzy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Lizzy. Well, Lizzy, I tell you what, man, I need you as my PR too.
Yeah.
Nans, hi everyone. Just stopping in to say hello. Hello, got you. Bless you
Nans.
all. Thank you, thank you. But you know, it is. I mean, it's I don't know.
And I
I
don't
couldn't
like
deal with it.
I always tell people like I don't like to push my information on police. I feel like that's why I put my YouTube videos out. That way they can use it if they need to use it. But unless they come to me, I'm not going to be just like I'm not going to really go to them unless I know for sure something because I never want to lead anybody on a wild goose chase, which sometimes it's hard to, get locations and whatnot. Like I said, I see in description. So unless I feel very strongly about something, which there at one point I did, and I told the family they didn't do anything about it, and that person was found where I said I had a dream about the area. And I knew when I had the dream because if I get a dream and I'm told a name and I'm shown an area, like that's where it's got to be. That's where she was, but the family didn't do anything about it. Either they did or maybe they looked and it was a really big area and they didn't find anything. But as far as I know, they hadn't been checked. So,
Right, right.
I never kind of pushed myself onto law enforcement. And I mean, there's shows, Psychic Detectives, Cincy Murder, they all work, with police and private investigators and stuff like that. Like they're a good validation of what we can do. And yes, we are a tool. So
That is
it
correct.
can be used as a tool, just like any other tool, I guess.
That is correct. Now, on Friday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a paranormal and true crime podcast. And what we do is we go over missing person cases, cold cases, murder cases. And what we do is we go to people like her and say, hey, we have a case we are looking at. What do you need to see what you can do to help us on this case, this project? And they'll tell us just a picture, a name, just date of birth, first name, date of birth. That's it. And we'll provide them whatever. Now, out of this panel, ladies and gentlemen, like she says, it's not a wild goose chase. There's it's a hit and miss. There is accuracy involved. Are they 100% every time? No, they'll tell you that. She told you that from out of the gate. It is what it is. But when you have a group of people, let's just say 20 people, let's put them all in a circle. And let's put a yellow Volkswagen Beetle, a slug bug. Remember how we used to play that slug bug game? We hit each other in the arm. All right. So now we got a visual. So now all of us are standing in a circle in that slug bug. Now we're standing in the middle of a city with trees and buildings and fire hydrants and people walking and benches and all this other stuff. Now, you asked for one specific piece of information, and I provide that to you, right? You don't know anything about anything else. Who was involved, what happened, nothing. And then next thing I know, you do your homework, you do with your abilities, and you come back to me with a report. We bring you on the show and you say who you are, you describe what you do, and you say, this is what I have, and this is how I got the information. This is my abilities, and this is what I did. Now, we take all that information with everybody else, and we take that as a piece of a puzzle and put it all together. Because if you go around that circle, ladies and gentlemen, you start to see that everybody's seeing a picture out of that movie. And more pictures you have out of that movie, now you're starting to see a film that's being developed. You see what I'm saying? Now stuff is start adding up, because where she may say, I'm seeing something by a river, it's not making any sense because there's something overhead it's real busy. And this other person would be like, I don't know what's going on, but there's a bridge, but underneath the bridge, there's a river. See how the connection goes? And that's the pieces of the puzzle. So what we do is we take everything we have, and if we think that we have something that's validatable and it's useful and it's on an open case, then we submit it in and pass it on. That's what we do. Hey, we try. So that's what we do. I think it's pretty neat. What do you think?
Yep. I do too. I mean, because that is how we work. Like, we get different pieces of puzzle. I don't work with others because I feel like, it kind of sometimes can mess me up. Just like if you watch like any of the psychic medium shows like Sensing Murder, they have to do their readings alone first.
Yes.
It's not good to do, and then you can come together and maybe figure out if you get the same thing. But there's sometimes that you might not get something, like you feel way off compared to what the other person got. So that's kind of why I don't, because I like to kind of stick with what spirit gives me. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't put information in and give it to you and submit it, anything like that, but it's for my own thing. And that doesn't mean that others can't take my information and put it with somebody else's. But as far as like working, I just feel like I do best with just spirit and I.
Yeah. Now,
So
now,
there's
now, our psychics
yeah.
do not work together at all. They do
Yeah.
not communicate. They do not share information. They do not even share what they find out. The only time they tell anybody what they find out is when we bring them onto the show and we say, hello, introduce yourself, and what did
Mhm.
you do and what did you receive? And
Yeah.
that's how it rolls, because you can self contaminate a psychic.
Mhm.
Now, when we go over these cases, people like her, I do not learn about the cases, because if I know something and she accidentally picks something up for me, I can cross contaminate her and give her information that may not be correct. You see what I'm saying? So there's certain things that are withheld for me. So that way, when I deal with the psychics, or Shay deals with the psychics, it helps them out as well. So we don't pollute the channels or the vibrations they get. Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? I hope it does.
Yeah.
I'm behind catching up, so nice to see you being you. Well, there you go, T. Teresa, we love you, Rachel. Well, we always love Rachel. Come on. Diane, interesting to see what different things everyone gets. It is. It's very interesting. Now, the question is always asked, do you get license plates? Yes. Do you get house numbers? Yes. Do you disclose that on the air? No. So we actually have code words, right? So if she gets some information and she comes on live, she's going to say a word that nobody knows, and she's going to tell us information either in writing or off the air, so that way it doesn't put nobody in jeopardy, especially if it's an open case, because usually that person may be watching the show. Now, do you want to be watching the show and somebody be like, Grizzly over there did it? I know he did it, and this is where he put the damn weapon. Go over there and find it in the creek underneath that bridge over off Highway 131. It's in the black bag. It's got 2 bricks in it. I mean, come on, really, ladies and gentlemen? Wouldn't that freak you out if you was somebody who was involved? They do.
Yeah, the only thing is when I get certain information, I don't know where it goes. Like, I can get numbers, I don't know if it goes in an address. I don't know if it goes in a license plate.
Yeah,
Sometimes I don't know where my numbers go.
we don't tell the psychics what the numbers represent.
Yeah.
Because this way they don't know, and that's what that little term we call
Yeah.
plausible deniability.
Yeah. Well, see, like I got the Quentin's address, but everybody already knew where he lived, but I didn't realize
Right.
it. I got the numbers and then we looked it up and we're like, shoot, that's Quentin's address, but we didn't know, but it was already out there anyways. It was on the news and stuff. So sometimes it happens and sometimes I don't know where all my numbers go.
Yeah.
I do get a lot of numbers, but sometimes, like, I've tried to get coordinates because I took classes with Lisa Williams and she tries to teach you how to get coordinates. Yeah, I'll get numbers. I don't know how to put them into coordinates or how they work. It just doesn't work that way for me. I wish it did. I wish I was more specific on like area, like I felt sometimes like I said, I feel things on a map and sometimes I just don't.
And now, have you ever dowsed?
Yeah, and I have not gotten. I cannot. I cannot get accurate information. It'll circle 500 spots. I try to clear my mind, and I don't do well with it.
Wow.
I've tried to teach myself to do it. I haven't had any luck with it that I know of. So it's not like if it's right, I know because no one's looked. So
Well,
I
I've
don't know if it's
actually
accurate.
had one psychic that actually did buried treasures and missing treasures or hidden treasures. And she would use a map, and people would pay her, and they would give her maps, and she would put her hand over the map, and wherever the treasure, whatever they were looking for, her hand would burn, get a burning sensation. And they would give, or she would give coordinates of where they would go to find this treasure, whether it's silver, gold, loot from Billy the Kid or whoever from out west. I'm being for real, ladies and gentlemen. It's documented on my YouTube channel. Go check it out. So, but anyway, she gave this guy coordinates, and they were digging and everything, and they found this old car hood. They're like, "Damn it!" And they called her up, and they were walking away, and they called her, and then like, "Hey, well, we went and dug where you said, and we found an old car hood." And she was like, "Yeah, it was an old truck hood from about 1930s, right?" And he was like, "How did you know?" She says, "You got to dig a little deeper." He's like, "Hey, everybody, come back, come back!" And they dug another 2 more feet, and guess what? They hit the mother lode. They found the silver and gold coins that the cowboys hid. So it works. People, I don't know how they do it. They really do.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Like everybody has their own gifts. I just have to figure out what works for me in terms of location because it's not something that I am great at, or I don't recognize the location because I'll be like, oh, I'm filling a pool here, I'm filling here, or I'm getting a headache here, and then I'll leave it, and then it turns out it was right the whole time, but I didn't recognize it was right. So that's the thing that I work on the most is location because location is super hard. People don't
Yeah.
understand how hard location is. I
Yeah.
don't like it.
So my
Don't like
Friday
it.
night show is called Paranormal and True Crimes. It's on every Friday night at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, check it out. We take cases all across the globe, cold cases, current cases, it doesn't matter. We look at them, we actually review them. Shay and I personally. We answer each email. We look at the cases, and we pick the cases, and we see what we can research on. And then we go to our panel and say, "Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We have something to work on. Who wants to take on?" And they volunteer, and we give them what they want, and they do their own thing. And we give them what we say, about a week or so, I think, last time.
Yeah.
And some of them 2 weeks, because we had so many psychics, we had to split the show up to 2 segments instead of one.
Yeah. And
So
I was gonna do first one, and then I was like, "Oh, I need to try to do second one because my son was here, and then
right,
I was just busy with private. I just didn't have the time. That was just bad timing for me. But I'll
right.
get in on one.
Now Denise wants to know: do you do past lives?
Um, I can, but it's not like they only give the lives that are specific, like that have anything to do with this one, like maybe your fears or something that has to do with this one. Like I can't give all your past lives, and I can't give like you were Mary so and so, and this was the dates. Like it's just descriptions. Like someone asked me that yesterday, and I kept getting a boat with water. There's a reference to possible like a fishing boat. They just kept showing me waves, putting her on a boat, and then there was a mention of the Titanic. So there was 2 lives where it was boat and water, and she's like, I don't like the ocean. They're like water. I don't like the ocean. So I don't know why they were mentioning that. Sometimes it's more specific, sometimes it's not. Um, it's basically
N-
whatever Spirit wants to show me, but it's not like, yeah, you were such and such back then. It's more like I get a description of kind of what your life was like.
Now, when you say you get a description, now are they showing you the description, or are they using what's in your head to try to get you to understand what they're trying to tell you?
So they are showing me, but they use how I reference or experience things. So they will show me, like, I'm really clairvoyant, so I get a lot of pictures and stuff like that. Sometimes it's sometimes even a movie that they show me can be symbolic, like trying to tell me that it's like this, but it's and they use my references, like shows that I've watched. Sometimes in cases they'll be like, "You've seen this show, it's like this." So sometimes they will show me exactly what happens, and sometimes they will use like how I reference things to try to explain it. Um, because you got to remember that they're communicating telepathically. So they're communicating like I'm sending a picture to you, and we just have to be at the right vibration or tuned into the right radio station to kind of receive that. And if our vibration is low, it makes it harder. Like if we're really drained, it can make things harder. Or if maybe they're not crossed all the way, or they're in a like they're not transitioned all the way, you know. And I always tell people, like, hang on to things because you never know what's gonna fit. You know, I kept telling everybody with Idaho 4 that he was similar to Ted Bundy. And everybody kept
Right.
telling me, quit mentioning Ted Bundy. And I said, but you don't understand. He looks like he's similar looks to him. He has the same color hair and the same color eyes, and he's gonna have like similar features. And everybody's like, quit mentioning him. And I'm like, I'm telling you guys. And it ends up that that's what it was. So I try not to question anything, but if I get like references, because sometimes they will reference other cases, other serial killers, other people that have been caught, just to kind of give me the idea of that, because they can't show it to me, so they'll use my references. But also they'll show me new things, like obviously they'll try to show me what happened, or they'll try to show me an area. And when I get an area, sometimes I can remote view it. It's more like a natural thing when I remote view. Like I'm working on Madeline's right now, and I keep being put into woods and walking around in woods. So that's more like a remote view. Like sometimes I can see it like out of, like, I'm there. Sometimes I see it out of the perp's eyes, and sometimes I see it out of the victim's eyes. So it really just depends. You know, every spirit is different in how they communicate, and every psychic medium is different in how they receive it.
Now, when you see things from the victim, do you also feel the pain and the trauma?
Yeah, I can feel the pain. So sometimes, like, if something's happened where I can't breathe, I'll have a trouble breathing. If head trauma, I'll get a severe headache, you know. And sometimes they'll show me things that happen in the body. If I notice, like, if there's drugs involved or something like that, I may feel high or out of it. So yeah, I can kind of feel, and that's just to kind of tell me what's happening or what happened to them. If they can't show it, they'll make me kind of feel it. But sometimes I've been in situations where I've been like in the victims, but it's not like clear, like me and you are talking. It's kind of, I get the ideas of what's happening to me, but it's not like I'm actually there. I don't know how to explain it. It's not
No,
like
I
I'm
understand.
actually there, but I kind of am given the idea, and I'm seeing things through their eyes. And sometimes when I see things through their eyes, I don't see everything. Sometimes I see, like, I notice if I see things through the perp's eyes, I can't see the perp. That's happened. Like that happened in Felicia Johnson. I couldn't see the perp because I kept seeing things through his eyes. So unless he like looks in a mirror where I'm, I can't see what he looks like. But that's the one where I had the dream of the location, which rarely happens. But I was like a gift. It told me exactly where she was. They didn't do any good, but I mean, she was found anyways. Like,
Right, right.
almost a year later. But it's people. I always try to tell myself, like, people will get found how they're meant to be found. And the timing that they're meant to be found, because everything has like a time. Everything has a time and place. Um, same thing with arrests, just like, Idaho 4, I kept saying he's going to be arrested in December, the end of December. And that's kind of how it goes. If they give me that, then there's already a time frame set into place. With Delphi, I never got his full name until May because he was going to be arrested in October. So that's kind of like where I go, where I'm pulled with my cases, because I feel like they give them to me in a timing, as to where something's going to happen. So that's why people are like, work this case. I'm like, you guys, for one, I'm never going to work every single case you guys want me to work, because it's just impossible. It's not humanly possible. For two,
That's right.
and we're not meant to work every case either. Like, there's certain ones we're meant to work and some that we're not. So I have to feel if I'm pulled to it or not. If I'm not pulled to it, then I'm not, I don't feel like maybe I'm not meant to work on that one. but I try to go where I'm pulled. And
Right.
it always
Right.
ends up working out. Like there's a timing with it or something, or I'll get specific information with it. Like Quentin, I had a really strong connection with. Like he was running up and down my hallway. I had a really strong connection. He came to me that night, like I couldn't go to sleep because he was in my room. Like
Ladies
me
and
and him
gentlemen,
had,
she is telling the truth.
yeah,
I'm telling
he
you,
was,
it's the last case that happened with me.
yeah, it just depends. Like sometimes we get a little bit of a stronger connection to certain spirits than others. So he was one that like, I had a really strong connection with. And again, it's in a lot of these cases that I work are already in my astrology chart.
Yes.
So if you look at your
Now,
astrology chart, it's kind of weird.
I'm a big believer in that. Now,
Yeah.
Teresa says, could our favorite pets come back? Now,
Yes,
what
they
does that
can.
mean?
Be reincarnated.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it's just like A Dog's Purpose, the movie A Dog's Purpose. Like that's pretty
Yeah,
legit. That's pretty legit story. They can, yeah, if they
that's
choose to.
interesting. That's interesting. Very interesting. So yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, that's it right there in a nutshell. Boy, when you deal with people with abilities, you never know what you're gonna get. Be prepared to get the truth. Now, I know from experience, from my research on her, she's very careful with sensitive information when it comes to maybe it's something that you may not want to know or it's going to be hurtful, because sometimes people don't sugarcoat things. If you ask a question, they'll just be like, and they'll just
I
tell
don't
you,
like
be
that
like,
sometimes, though. Yeah,
well,
they can
yeah,
do
but
that
not all
sometimes.
the time. Not all the
Yeah,
time.
but
So,
specifically with like relationship questions and stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, isn't that most of the questions you get, though?
I
Probably.
hate them. I hate them because they're all based on free will. I hate them.
Yeah.
It's like,
Does
are
he
me and this
love me?
person gonna get married? There's a possibility of it, but it's based on free will. People come into our lives, but it's our free will on if we're gonna stay with them or not. Yeah. And because I've been single for so long, I don't know. I don't like relationship questions. Doesn't mean I don't answer them. I see a lot of people, significant others that possibly may come in.
Yeah, right. I mean, well, I found mine, so I'm lucky. I wasn't even looking. I was told, and it was funny because mine was in with you on the panel the whole time. That was it. You have to watch that show. That's
But
ironic. That
when
was
people are
ironic.
meant, that's why I tell people like when they're meant to meet, they're meant to meet. It's just the way that it's gonna happen,
Oh, it
and
was
you'll
meant to
know it.
be.
You'll know it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. There's no denying this one. I'm telling you. Yeah, absolutely not. But ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here on Grizzly on the Hunt. So hopefully you enjoyed the show. Make sure like, subscribe, shares, and tune in for that podcast on true crimes. I'm definitely gonna have her back on. I love to have her back on. She's always welcome back on Grizzly. She's always endorsed by Grizzly. That's why she's here. Uh, yeah, I think we could have some fun doing some other things. But you're always so busy, though. That's good in a
That
way.
happened, as of January. I wasn't that busy before, but I am now because of the whole Idaho 4 thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That really does have you tied up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's mostly private readings now, and then like I try to tell people like I'm only one person. Like I'm trying to do private readings on top of YouTube, on top of TikTok because it's all something, that I have to do as a creator, right? I still have to keep everything going. So, but I've only got so much energy and so much time. And
And
that's
you're
not
only
even
one person, right? Do you
yeah,
have
and that's
any
not
help?
even I do Lizzy and Vanished and Forgotten help
Oh,
me.
you are so lucky. See, I do
Yeah.
everything by myself.
Well,
So,
I mean, when it comes to this stuff, like they help me with like cases, like, research and stuff because I don't research. So they help me with the research and I bring on Vanished and Forgotten and she kind of when that's how I like to we notice I get more information. Like if I'm talking to you and giving you a reading, I get more information that way than if I'm just sitting there like doing it because I fight with myself too much. So it's like I'm giving her a reading. So we started trying that and we noticed that I get more information. We started doing that with Quentin and it really helped everything. So we keep doing it that way. So she does help with that. She does help with the research.
that's
And people don't
awesome.
understand too, like when it comes to cases, certain times I'll get stuck on a map for hours. Like, it's not just I do the reading and leave it. Like, sometimes I wish I could, but if I have searchers in the area, I'm going to try to find a place where they can go, which is hard sometimes.
Well, let
it's hard
me
sometimes.
address this question right here, or this statement. Awesome, Rachel. How exciting. Look forward to more videos from you two. You know what? I'm definitely down to do that again if she's down to do it again.
Yeah, always.
You know, I love to promote people. I'm all about other people. I love to have fun. You know, that's what it's all about. You know, and my saying is the more that you spread the word out and stuff like that, help people, you know, that's what it's all about, man. And hopefully you enjoyed the show tonight.
You
Make
forgot
sure
the
and
book,
reach
Grizzly.
out. What's that?
You forgot my book.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, hey, I didn't hit my commercial or my end trailer yet, so yes.
I mean,
What
right now
about
it's
the
on
book?
Amazon. Right now it's on
Yes.
Amazon, but it'll be coming out with a publisher hopefully within the next couple months.
Yes,
So,
that is
it's
very
called
important.
R&R Love, a Twin Flame story. It's got a lot of good reviews, so hopefully it helps people. That was the whole point of writing it. And I have ideas for more books, so we'll see.
Yes.
If my procrastination allows me to do it.
And well, and speaking of twin flames, yes, that is very important. Yes, please look at that book on Amazon. Yes, that's very important. And I look forward to the book. Yeah, she twin flame. I'm thinking about mine, and it's ironic, ladies and gentlemen. If you would have seen the show with this panel of psychics describing what happened, you just have to watch it. But from coast to coast around the world, ladies and gentlemen, Grizzly on the Hunt. Hopefully enjoyed it, and we'll definitely have her back on. And we'll talk to you soon. Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
Good night, everybody. Bye.
It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No, we're gonna watch and listen.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shit, should we run?
No.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, should we run?
Okay. It's a grizzly.
Are you sure it's not a chipmunk? Action. No, I'm out of here. Action.
It's a grizzly.
I'm out of here.
Huh. Maybe it is a chipmunk. It's a grizzly.
Are we gonna die?
I don't know. We're just gonna sit here and listen and watch.
Let's get out of here, maybe.